Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I'll be going over Necro Storm. So this is a Necropotence deck, and this version is using Beseech the Mirror alongside rituals to combo off. I've already done a video on this deck on the channel before, but it's gotten a really big upgrade with the advent of Duskborn and the special guest cards, and so I just want to make another video on it because I think this deck's really sick, and it's also just really hard to play, more than you would think for a pretty linear combo deck, and I think generally underrated. So, we do love storming on this channel. So yeah, this deck is built around Necropotence. Really, really powerful enchantment. Lets you basically pay life to draw cards, got some drawbacks, you only get them on your end step, you have to discard out to 7 cards. But the idea, and you skip your draw step, which is actually pretty relevant, but the idea with Necropotence is you get it down on turn 1 or turn 2, ideally. You really don't want to keep hands that have a turn 3 Necro or worse. I'll get to that later, though. But really, you're going to be aggressively mulliganing for an early Necropotence. Once you get it down, you're going to be paying like minimum 10 life. Often, you'll just be paying as much life as you can to survive. Maybe your opponent's a red deck, but they don't have a creature in place, so you pay down to 4 to play around Bolt. But you really just want to have access to as many cards as possible, because then you're going to untap and try to win with Tendrils of Agony. And so the way you do that, and the way you actually get Necropotence down in the first place, is with thanks of rituals. So we've got Dark Ritual, which is the most important ritual. Land Dark Ritual Necropotence is like the quote-unquote not draw with this deck, though. It's fairly consistent because you mulligan towards it, and there's some redundancy. So it's more just like you really need like a Land Dark Ritual Necro type hand for it to be keepable, and then after you draw a bunch of cards with Necro on the following turn, Dark Ritual is really helpful for setting up the combo because you're going to need mana and spell to cast for Tendrils. You need to get up to 4 mana for Beseech generally, and you can also do things with Underworld Breach that usually involves Beseech lines. Additionally, a new addition that this deck got is Sacrifice. So Sacrifice does a similar thing to Dark Ritual is. What it does is you can sacrifice a creature and add the amount of black equal to its mana value. And the crucial part with this card is it's an instant. So what you can do is you can evoke Grief. Now Grief, I'm sure if any of you play Modern, recently got banned there. But Grief, you exile a card from your hand and you get this 4-drop. And so, yeah, the discard part is cool to 3-2, whatever. Point is, you can turn 1, evoke Grief, sacrifice, that gets you up to 4 mana, which means you can either Necropotence or even cast a Beseech the Mirror. And that redundance is really critical and helps you ensure that more of your hands have a turn of Necropotence, which is really the most important part of the deck. Because I will say, especially in game 1, if you get a Necro down on turn 1, your win rate goes to like 95%. Like, it's incredibly difficult to lose the game after that. It really requires the deck to just completely fail to function as it's currently built. So you really want to be kind of building the deck around that, and that's what I've tried to do. And Sacrificing Grief just adds some really good redundancy. Also means that you're more likely to have rituals after you go for a big Necro activation. With only Dark Ritual in the deck, there used to be the issue that you would like draw 15 cards or whatever, but 10 or 15 cards, and then you would still just not find a Dark Ritual, and so you'd have a hard time getting going. And you might need to like set up like a mini storm turn with Weather the Storm, or pay down to 10 life and then go again next turn to kind of play around that, make a land drop, get some Springleaf Drums in play. So that part is now less of an issue because of this new like 2-card combo package we've got. And then also, getting to go Grief before you go for the Ritual into Necropotence, it can be nice for clearing out interaction. Maybe your opponent's got a counterspell you can beat out with Grief. Like, it's already a solid card in a Necropotence deck in the first place. So getting to justify its inclusion of Sacrifice, it's really just a fine card on its own as well. So not too much cost deck building wise. And yeah, other than that, this deck also has a bunch of other ways to generate mana. So Phyrexian Tower is really strong. Let's use Sacrifice Creature, which it'll be tapping for 2 a lot of the time between Ornithopter and Shambling Ghast and Evoked Grief. Shambling Ghast in particular, Tournament Shambling Ghast turn 2. Phyrexian Tower is 4 mana with the treasure, which is pretty nice. And then we've also got Springleaf Drum to tap your cheap creatures, and as I mentioned before, for Shambling Ghast for Ornithopter. Ornithopter and Shambling Ghast also provide Bargain Farter for Beseech the Mirror, which is pretty important. Yeah, that's the acceleration. This deck does not run that many lands in total. It's I think 6, 14, yeah, 18 total. With 14 turn 1 black, which is like meets the Karsten requirements, and then you can say it's like a little more than that because you can use Phyrexian Tower to make black on turn 1 with Ornithopter or Grief. So and generally after turn 1 or 2, you're not really worried about hitting land drops because you're drawing a bunch of cards with Necropotence. Usually you draw a bunch of cards and keep 0 or 1 lands in hand. Usually you want to land right mana, but sometimes if it's later in the game, you might want just more spells to increase the storm count, or be like more resilient to hand disruption if you don't need the extra mana. So yeah, that's the mana acceleration. And now I do want to touch on real quick redundancy for Necropotence. Now the whole idea is to get Necropotence in play on turn 1 or 2, and so the way you do that is generally by just mulliganing 2 Necropotence, but you can also you have 1 of Demonic Tutor to get Necropotence, and you have 4 Beseech the Mirror. Beseech the Mirror actually has a really important role for the combo as well, which I'll get into in a second. But Beseech the Mirror is also a 4-mana Necropotence, which you can bargain away, Ornithopter, Springleaf Drum, Shenlingast Token, Leyland of the Sanctity, whatever, to get the Necro down, which is really powerful, gives you more redundancy, and now sacrifice making 4 mana with Grief on turn 1. It's actually much, much easier to get a turn 1 Beseech going. Usually, if you got like the Beseech thing, in previous versions, you'll have to wait until turn 2 unless you got like Phyrexian Tower, double Ornithopter, or like Ornithopter, like so something really crazy thing where you have like double Dark Ritual or whatever. So it made it really much less inconsistent. But now with Grief Sacrifice, you have just a fairly easy way to make 4 mana on turn 1. So it increases the range of playable hands by a decent like a couple percent minimum, maybe even like 10% or so, which is really important because that's what the deck is really. That's the choke point for the deck. Is the biggest fail rates tend to be you never find a good hand before you get to like 3 cards or whatever, or you get disrupted on turn 1 or 2 by Spell Pierce, Thoughtseize, that kind of thing. So yeah, now in terms of the combo, basically the idea is you want to have Beseech the Mirror. Actually, one thing I should touch on as well is you can also Beseech for a Songification. I've got it in the main deck. It comes up. I had Thassa's Oracle in the main for a while because there's a lot of show and tell, but there's been less on ladder recently, so I decided to cut it and have still kept the Songification. I could also see just running a Springleaf Drum in its stead. But Songification does get a little better when you have the Grief Sacrifice thing because it does enable turn 1 kills, and it makes just Beseech easier to cast in general. Also helps you play through Thing Doll Necropotence. Can be an interesting sideboard card. Weak to Bowmasters, and you usually want to be getting a Necropotence, but it's been nice to have that optionality sometimes. And it is castable, got 4 Blooming Marsh, 2 mana Confluence, Springleaf Drum, Shambling Ghast, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's all her alternative engine to the Necropotence. And I may be wondering why I'm not running any copies of Necro Dominance, because it's kind of like Necropotence, right? And, this deck needs redundancy, all that. It's a lot worse, is the thing. Like, the difference between 5 and 7 cards and being vulnerable to Bowmasters, which is played in a huge percentage of decks, just means it's not really viable. Like, maybe if you told me that the meta was all Boros energy, then sure, having more consistency is fine. You can have more like setup turns with Necro Dominance, but if you're going to be playing into like Mardu energy or whatever, you just can't keep hands with a turn 1 Necro Dominance, and you don't always know if you're playing against a Bowmaster deck, also direct control as well. So really just not super high on that card. Bowmasters just makes it so much worse because you are drawing cards rather than exiling them, which is sometimes good. Shieldred, you can do that kind of combo. That's a thing in Modern, but in this case, not really relevant. So yeah, anyway, now let's talk about the combos. So what you want to do is you usually want to set up a Beseech the Mirror, and so if you have enough spells in hand, or your opponent's like on a bit of a lower left, and they've fetch shocked a couple times, you just go like cast like 5 spells or so, Beseech the Mirror, sack something, Tendrils, and you can even up that storm count if you have multiple pieces of bargain fodder in play. You can bargain away something, Beseech the Mirror, Beseech for another Beseech, bargain something away again, do that a couple times, then Tendrils, ups the storm count, which is nice. Like if you have like double Ornithopter, Dark Ritual on turn 2, you can go like Dark Ritual, double Ornithopter, Storm Count 3, Beseech Storm Count 4, Beseech Storm Count 5, Beseech Storm Count 6, Tendril Storm Count 7, 14 damage. You can imagine a couple more spells in hand, or your opponent's taking a bit of early chip damage from your Shamley Gas and fetched a couple times, and it's going to be good enough. But you also have the ability to set up combo kills by going Beseech a couple times, fill up the graveyard, and then get an Underworld Breach. Now, usually this is going to work only if you have a Dark Ritual already in the graveyard to be able to continue generating mana. But at that point, you'll have usually enough cards in the graveyard because you've been bargaining away all these cheap trinkets that you'll be able to go like Ritual, Beseech, uh, bargain away the Underworld Breach, get a Tendrils, and deal more than enough damage that way. And so even on turn 2, because of the fast mana of the deck and the power of Beseech the Mirror, you're often able to kill it right away. And even if you aren't, you're usually able to set up either a mini Tendrils or a mini Weather the Storm, which is in the deck as this kind of failed case if you can't full combo, but you do need to gain some life. And you can set that up and go back to a decent life total in the neck opponents, draw a bunch more cards, do it again next turn. Which is fine. A lot of matchups is going to be perfectly acceptable to do that. They're not going to have good enough interaction to really stop you from doing your thing. I've had, games against control where they have a bunch of counter spells, and I just go like Necro, draw 10 cards every turn, untap, do some setup, get my payoff counter, draw 10 cards, do it again, and they just can't keep up because you're drawing 10 cards a turn, and they're drawing, 1, maybe 2 if they've got a Psychic Frog in play or something. You can sneak it a storm spell here or there to gain some life, and they can't really stop that because counter spells don't work on something like Weather the Storm. You can only counter one of the copies. So that part does give the deck some extra resilience. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the deck. So there are some one-ofs, as I mentioned before, Underworld Breach, mostly to get off Beseech for combo turns, and with Beseech you can also do other cute things, like you can Beseech for Dark Ritual to cast a second Beseech from hand or Tendrils from hand. You can do all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah, so just cheap acceleration, payoffs with Tendrils and Weather, DT for some extra redundancy, Breach for help with combo, Songification. Maybe it's actually just supposed to be a 4th Springleaf Drum, you cut something from the sideboard, put it there, but Thassa's Oracle plus Songification lets you kill pretty quick against Show and Tell, even if they have a Veil of Summer. That is pretty important. And as I mentioned before, the Sacrifice Grief thing letting you get potentially a Songification on turn 1 does kind of make me like it. So onto the sideboard, got some Graveyard Hate. We've got a... let me make it nice, actually. Yeah, we got a Tormod's Crypt and a Surgical Extraction as Graveyard Hate. Surgical Extraction is nice because you can like draw a bunch of cards with the Necropotence and cast it on end step. Tormod's Crypt has some synergy as being bargain fodder and just free Storm Count, goes to the graveyard for Breach, Creation, etc. So it also fits with the deck somewhat okay, which is why I'm running a 1-1 split. You can tutor for both with Demonic Tutor. You can Necro into both, though. Obviously, Surgical Extraction is better in that regard because you can cast it instant speed. 2 Hammer Might, good at answering hate pieces. Also just a decent card in the deck. Cheap creatures that you can sacrifice to Phyrexian Tower and bargain away and tap to Springleaf Drum are nice. Gaining life is nice. That part is relevant in an opponent's deck for sure. Yeah, that part's pretty cute. It's a low opportunity cost to board in, and it answers stuff like Pithing Needle, and Graveyard Hate sometimes can be an issue and whatnot. So very nice card. Now 3 Veil of Summer, mostly for Thoughtseize, Hand Disrupt, stuff like that, and counter spells. So really important against blue-black Frog, for example. We've also got 2 Defense Grid to help play through counter spells. Getting one of these down early can be really nice because you're often unable to go for a Terminal Necro through like Spell Pierce, or they Thoughtseize you or whatever. But you can just slam Defense Grid and then kind of give yourself a couple turns to set up and be able to resolve a Necro that's going to often be still fast enough because control decks aren't that great at pressuring, though of course Psychic Frog does kind of throw a wrench in the works in that case. Sometimes, so in that case, you generally want to try to race more. But Defense Grid also helps in that regard. You get it down on 2, they have to counter an untapped Necro on 3 GG's. So yeah, very nice card to have against control. Now we got some anti-aggro stuff, one of Coloring Ritual, one of March of Wretched Sorrow. Both pretty nice. March just lets you gain a bunch of life end step. Kill a creature, maybe they've got like a hate piece in play, but there aren't that many relevant ones really. No one's playing like Archon or whatever. Archon of Emeria. And then Coloring Ritual. Answering hate pieces is super nice. You can find it by Necroing a bunch. You can DT for it. You can Beseech for it. It's just a nice card to have. Also, one Beseech you, just kind of like Haywire Might, low opportunity cost. Not producing black mana is kind of awkward, but you can still play it all as land if you need to. Filter it into black with Springleaf Drum, or maybe you need 4 mana. You know, like Dark Ritual plus Beseech you for Beseech the Mirror, whatnot. So it's still just a fine card, and can help answer hate pieces or omniscience or shifting with them, which is nice. Another breach, just sometimes you need more threats against a more controlling deck. And then Grapeshot and Thassa's Oracle as alternate win conditions. Grapeshot also can help against aggro decks, though that's not really the primary reason you want to be bringing it in for. But these kind of give you more win conditions in case of, you know, get Surgical or the Veil of Summer, stuff like that. Thoracle in particular is the most important because it, and it's actually the reason to be playing Song of Creation. You often want to set up a Thoracle kill against a Veil of Summer deck. The issue with that, and the way you can do that is you just gain a bunch of life with a Storm and deck yourself with Necro over the course of a couple turns. You just get a combo, draw a bunch of cards, combo, draw a bunch of cards. And the issue with that is against Show and Tell, which is the main matchup you want to do that in because they have Veil of Summers. That's just too slow if it's taking a couple turns. So I'm running a Song of Creation. With Song of Creation, you can immediately draw your whole deck and win with the Oracle, which is, you know, overkill in a lot of matchups, but specifically when you need it, it's very, very important to have, and it's very good against Show and Tell. Now, Oracle is in the sideboard because Show and Tell is just, I haven't seen it much on ladder. Does that mean that Song of Creation maybe you should be on the sideboard? Yeah, honestly, probably. Cut like a second defense grid or the Grape Shot or something, and play a 4th Springleaf Drum. But I do like having it in the main deck. Has been decent, so I kind of will let you decide on that one. And yeah, before I finish on the deck, I do want to touch on the mana base real quick. I've gotten used to it, but this might seem a little odd to you. So I'm not running any like non-basics like Takanuma or whatever because it's just so rare that it comes up. And Blood Moon is a card that's played. 4 Blooming Marsh, 2 Mana Confluence. So this deck needs green mana for Weather the Storm, needs green mana for Haywire Might, Veil of Summer, but you have ways to generate colored mana with Springleaf Drum and Shambling Ghast. You don't actually need that many green sources, and Blooming Marsh is painless. It's really, really important this mana base does not deal too much damage, so we're not playing like Fetch Shock mana base or anything like that. No, nothing like that. But yeah, Blooming Marsh is nice. Honestly, you could probably get away with running Pathways as well, but it's extremely rare that you ever want to play them on green until you've already drawn a bunch of cards with Necro, at which point you'll have green mana. Which actually, that's also another point, is generally you'll be drawing a ton of cards with Necro and then trying to answer a hate piece. Though sometimes it does happen before. But yeah, Blood Moon is generally more of an issue than not having green mana, but you could run some number of Pathways if you wanted to, and then 2 Mana Confluence. Reasoning behind this is tapped for black and green, but also this deck has a bunch of random colored spells like Underworld Breach and Song of Creation and Land of Sanctity and Thoracle and, you know, whatnot. And so sometimes casting these does come up, most often Underworld Breach, but having just a way to produce colored mana, just another way to do that, is nice. And you generally just like play Mana Confluence on turn 2 or whatever, and so it deals you like 1 or 2 damage over the course of the game because this deck is pretty fast. It doesn't end up being too much of an issue despite, you know, Mana Confluence seeming like a more painful land. It's actually often really not that bad. So yeah, that's the deck. I put a quick, so I wrote an article for it on my Patreon a while ago, and then I just made a quick update for it, kind of going over my list and sideboarding and whatnot. So do be sure to check that out. I haven't written it yet, so I'm not sure exactly what's in it, to be honest, but it'll probably be just like an explanation of the list and my changes, and then, you know, a bit of sideboarding advice, new tips and tricks with like Sacrifice Grief, which wasn't present in the last article, and then maybe some like opening hand simulations and like looking at them and helping you like keeper mulls basically. Because I think the keeper mull decision with this deck is one of the most important parts to playing it. You really, really need to keep good hands. You need to mulligan aggressively because this deck is not one that can play like, oh, I kept a mediocre hand and I'm trying to like throw into my last piece and wait a couple turns. No, you need to be comboing really fast because if your life is getting pressured, it makes your Necro so much worse. And a lot of the strength of this deck is that you can turn 1 Necro potence before your opponent has interaction online, especially on a play, especially if you can defend yourself from hand disruption with Leyline Sanctity, which that's why it's in the main deck, in addition to being free bargain fodder. So you really, really need to kind of get that down packed and kind of abandon your general heuristics for mulligans. You really want to be aggressive in mulling towards a hand that you know can win you the game. even, 4-card hand, it's bad, fine. Mull it for the dream of land D-Writ Necro. 3-card hand is bad, fine. Mull 2 out of 3 of Necro D-Writ land and try to draw the third one. Like, you gotta give yourself a shot to win the game when you're mulling. There are no keepable mediocre hands with this deck, is my point. And I'll be talking about that more throughout the video. So yeah, hop right in. Alright, match number 1 here. Ooh, what an excellent hand. Would you look at that? Got everything I need. Land, Dark Ritual, Mega Bones. Don't even need to... I would keep this on 3 cards as well, very happily. Don't even need to look at the rest of the hand. But it looks like we're against a control deck because of Kahira. And apologies for the kind of drawn out intro. I just kind of felt like yapping. So let's hope for no Spell Pierce. Nice, and this hand is already decent. I think I'm gonna draw like 9 cards. Because I'm really like a singular Phyrexian Tower and lots of mana, a lot of mana, that kind of thing. Dark Ritual, Grief Sacrifice. But I'm worried about like a mana drain on 2, and I'm not convinced that if I draw to like, 2 life or whatever, like, or 1 life, the absolute minimum, because my opponent's not gonna be pressuring me, that I'll necessarily be able to combo through that, and there's really no reason to be aggressive. Like, there's nothing. It's game 1, so my opponent can't have hate pieces. They're not gonna be pressuring me with their Kahira deck. I could just afford to take it slow, make sure I don't lose to something random. Like, worst case, I can just go land, Springleaf Drum, Shambling Ghast, set up a Weather the Storm, maybe, or a Demonic Tutor, and just draw some more cards the following turn. You could definitely make an argument for being aggressive with this Necroponus. I just think that it's like a tiny bit safer to do it this way. Oh geez. Okay. Wow. See, those were just like truly awful draws. So I don't think I'm gonna need the Song of Creation or the second Weather the Storm. I do need a land. I don't need Necroponents. The Necroponents aren't the most helpful. I do want threat density against control, so I'm not gonna discard these. Discard like a Ornithopter and a Shambling Ghast, and then maybe I'll discard a Sacrifice since I don't have a Grief to go with it. Arena UI isn't like spectacular for this, but yeah, this is fine. I mean, actually, this is not fine. It's like really bad. Oh, I think I messed up, actually. I should have kept the Ornithopter. Yeah, I should have given this more thought. So keeping the Ornithopter would have been better because it would have let me go Ornithopter, Springleaf Drum, Weather the Storm. Right now, I can't do that because I won't have 2 mana after doing that, so I need to go land, Springleaf Drum, Shambling Ghast, pass. Still going to be alright. But yeah, very suboptimal. Worst thing could have been I should have just bottomed the exile the Demonic Tutor, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna draw like 7 here. Let's see, I'm gonna go to 4. I don't want to be able to pay life to this Mana Confluence. I have the Weather to go again already, so I'm not like desperately digging for anything. I don't want to lose like a random flyer. Maybe they flash in like a Fairy Mastermind or something, I don't know. Yeah. And then, oh, hold on. If I hit a Sacrifice here, can I... Yeah, if I hit a Sacrifice here, I'm probably going to cast it to cast it with the Storm. Could have also done that. Oh, yeah, there we go, actually. So, yeah, look, I can Sacrifice, it'll generate me a black mana and treasure. My opponent can counter it if they want to. Don't really have an issue with that, but if not, this just lets me weather the storm to gain some life. And it's nice because now I need to discard less cards to hand size, and it uses my mana somewhat efficiently. This hand is pretty bad, so I'm just going to be Demonic Tutoring next turn, and I wouldn't have been able to get up to a huge storm count anyway, most likely. I don't need any of the lands other than Phyrexian Tower. And, oh, is it 1 card? Oh, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, I suppose. But yeah, this is like an example of a game where like the deck isn't necessarily firing on all cylinders, kind of awkward hits off the Necropotence. But part of that is just because I haven't drawn all the cards at once. Now I'm gonna draw down to I think 5 because I don't want to be able to tap the Mind Confluence, but I don't want to die to a Bolt. But I really do need to be able to win the turn and get all these cards because I'm losing the Necro. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. And I think I'm just gonna untap and draw. If I don't draw anything, I'm just gonna be forced into demonic tutoring and passing, which should be fine. I lose to 2 bolts, but yeah. Yeah. Adios. They should have draw stepped this. I wouldn't draw a card for a turn. It wasn't a good card, so they didn't get punished, but still. I think I'm gonna go ahead and get a grief. Just I'm gonna draw a bunch of cards here. I want to just protect myself from what they could potentially have. I can pitch a Beseech. I'm gonna do it now, to be honest. I don't want to lose to double bolt or anything crazy like that. Minskin Boo would be awkward as well. Unfortunately, can't quite cast a 4-drop. Even if I played the Phyrexian Tower, I only have 1 off the Spring Leaf and then 2 off the tower. So, not quite. What they've got. Wow, this hand is awful. I don't even, like, none of this matters. Plus, I'll take the Leyline Binding in case I want to go for some sort of Underworld Breach thing. But yeah, this just looks like the Beans deck, which should be a very easy match. Especially game 1, because just none of their cards matter in the slightest. But also games 2 and 3, I would suppose, unless they have some really effective hate pieces. They're not actually going to have that many counterspells, I don't think. If any. Depends on the build. Did I hit a Grief? I did, so I'll keep Grief, Sacrifice. I'll keep the Phyrexian Tower, keep my payoffs, and I'll keep a black card to exile to Grief, and that's 7. Let's see, am I gonna have to go for a Breach? Oh, I discarded all these cards, so yeah, I'm gonna win with Breach very easily by just, oh, and a Dark Ritual off the top. I mean, this is just gonna be very easy. I might even be able to generate enough mana to just double tendrils them outright. But I'm going to grief them just to make sure I didn't draw like another Leyline Binding or something. I don't even have enough types for it. But I do want to sacrifice it. I might as well. And I guess I'll take the swords. I don't know. It doesn't matter at all, really. Go for the sacrifice. I just have a bunch of mana. Puts me up to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 with the Dark Rituals. How much is this if I tendrils twice? It's going to be 4 plus 5. It's going to be 18. And they're on 17. So yeah, that would be enough storm. But I do want to just show real quick that I can also just Beseech the Mirror here. And I'm going to Beseech for an Underworld Breach. I also Beseech for Dark Ritual. I had 2 spare mana, and Beseech for Dark Ritual is -1, so that would have been fine. But yeah, here now I can just, especially since they killed my Necro, I got discard a bunch of cards they hand size that went to the grave. But even if I hadn't, I Beseech some cards, I cast some cards in the early game, I would have had plenty in the yard to be able to do this. And yeah, this plays around them. Plays around really anything. I know their hand, but they could like evoke Solitude, draw. I don't even know why, because you can Solitude your own creature to gain life theoretically, but after taking the swords, that was no longer viable. So let's see. Hero control. Well, the only thing to do is really bad. It's completely unnecessary. They probably will have Veil of Summer though, so I do want a Thoracle. Do I want my own Veil of Summers? I think I'm going to bring in Hail Mites for hate pieces and a Beseiju. And then basically I can just decide if I want to bring in anti-counterspell stuff, so Veil of Summer Defense Grid, or not. I'm leaning towards not. I just don't think they'll have that many counterspells. I have Grief as well to throw those out. Maybe I'll cut like an Ornithopter or 2. For some Veil of Summers just in case. I am boarding in Hail Mites, so I already have some creatures, and in this matchup, Tournament Necro isn't like the most important because they're not going to have hand disruption. They're not going to have like mana drain type stuff for the most part. I mean, I could be wrong with that, but them being like a hero version isn't going to have less creatures in the main. Yeah, this is not a keepable hand. Just doesn't have a payoff. This hand's close. So the issue with this hand is that it doesn't have a piece of bargain fodder for this Beseech. However, it's pretty close to being good. I think I'm honestly kind of tempted to keep it. This is a slower matchup, so I have time. And I think Grief is going to be really good here. And that actually does it. Like, a lot of the deck wins the game here. Like, Necro would be good. Any piece of bargain fodder. The reason I bought him the tendrils over anything else is because now I can use a second sacrifice to generate a treasure off the Shambling Ghast. There, I'm gonna exile a Beseech, I suppose. They might counter the grief, in which case I'd rather have another grief. Is the main motivation for this. Yeah, let's see what they've got going on. Should have attacked first, I suppose, because I'm gonna have to sack him 4 damage to not lose floating mana. Yeah, here's the veto. This is kind of what I was talking about. Like, they're not gonna have counters to the grief. So clearing the way of that is going to be very nice. They are going to Beseech the Necro, maybe, but it really does not bother me in the slightest. I'll just draw my cards and get an extra land. Thanks for the ramp. So yeah, I'm going to take the veto. I'm going to sacrifice the grave, and this is a nice line. I like this a lot. Yeah, the second sacrifice is going to pay for itself, and I'm going to make a treasure. And I'm going to cast a Beseech the Mirror. Oh, you know what? Next level play they could make. They could Beseech with a treasure. I wonder if they will. Yeah, disappointing. I would be shocked if they did, but really impressed. It's a risky play for sure. I would have liked to see it. I think it was correct. I probably should have thought about it, though. A gold player's never seeing that. Like, let's be real. But yeah, that would have been kind of sick. Because you have a window to do that with the sacrifice on the stack. In fact, actually, I suppose what I should have done. Play around that. Can I have played around that? Guess not. Yeah. But worst case, I would just hard cast the grave. It's like not the end of the world, kind of. I mean, it kind of is the end of the world. Like, it's really good. Because they ramp me by a land, but then I have a grief in 2 lands. That's not doing a ton. So yeah, I'm gonna draw down to. I want to play around Bolt, and I want to tap the Mana Clump, so I'll go down to 5. Yeah, and I have to assume that this Necro is leaving, which is why I'm being so aggressive, even though you saw me like being fairly passive last game. Yeah, there you go. There's the Footstrand. And they really should do this. Yeah, the issue is like they have to do this now, otherwise they lose their mana. But this means that I get to just straight up discard cards, and that's going to make an Underworld Breach much, much better. It means that now that do I have a Dark Ritual in Graveyard? No, as long as I find a Dark Ritual, a Beseech for Underworld Breach is going to be GG's no matter what. So actually, you know what? They do have a Beseech in hand, so fair play, I guess. Though they're gonna tap out to play this up the Beanstalk, I guarantee you. Okay. Wow, that was kind of aggressively mediocre. It's fine. We found another Necro. Bottom, I guess, Blooming Marsh, Swamp, Blooming Marsh. I don't need all these because I'm gonna cast the Necro. I don't need 2 extra Necros, and I don't need Haywire Might here. I already have something else to sacrifice. I don't need Leaf Drum. Seems fine to me. Yeah. This hand can probably go like Grief, Sacrifice, Dark Ritual, Demonic Tutor, something. Oh, okay, another Dark Ritual at the top can make things very easy, I would assume. Yeah, I'm actually fairly confident in my ability to win here because I can just Demonic Tutor for Breach even. So I'm gonna go ahead and exile the Necro versus this Grief because it doesn't seem like I'm going to need to go for that. Grief to just clear the way here, make sure nothing fishy is afoot. Binding. Oh. You know what? Yeah, Leyland Binding, if they have a Godless Shine in their deck, would be enough types. So we're going to take that. And they don't have a legendary creature for this Beseiju. So I'm not worried about that. And this is going to be 8-10 mana. So actually what I can do is I can just straight up get a second Tendrils and go for 2 Tendrils. And now that I've already demonstrated the whole Breach thing with the Necro being destroyed, I'll just go for the most efficient option. Yeah, even your opponent doesn't blow up your Necro, you're usually able to get like 2 or 3 spells off the Breach, especially if you're bargaining away the Underworld Breach. Actually, funny trick. So what you can do is you can bargain away Underworld Breach and then exile it from your graveyard to pay for the escape. But don't get too excited. This only works if you already have enough cards to escape the Beseech before you exile the Unrural Breach. So don't ask me why. I'm not a rules lawyer, but that's just how it works. So in theory, cute, but doesn't actually come up unless you have a second breach in the deck, and that like, yeah, you can board one in post board. Doesn't really come up. But yeah, you might see in your own games that come up where you're like, oh, like I can for some reason exile this breach as a cost while I'm beseeching. That's cool, but don't fool yourself into thinking that that means that you can do that if you only have 3 cards in the graveyard total and you're casting the beseech, because you need to like show the game that you can cast them in the first place by exiling 3 other cards before you can sack the breach as a cost. So it just doesn't work. Alright, match 2, and this is gonna be a mulligan. If this hand had a grief, it'd be close. Double Phyrexian Tower is awkward as well. Yeah, this hand's not quite there either. It does grief on turn 1 pitching Beseech, but then we're a ritual of Phyrexian Tower ways away from the turn 2 Necropotence, so it's too risky. And this, the Congregation was payoff. Oh, I mean, we gotta go to 4 here, just hoping for Ritual Necro. Ooh. Yeah, I gotta go to 3. You know what? Fine. So we're keeping Necro, and we keep Shamlingas Phyrexian Tower. We keep Ornithopter Phyrexian Tower. I think it's supposed to be Ornithopter Phyrexian Tower. This way, any land means turn 2 Necro. So it's similar to Shamlingas because you need a swamp to cast in the first place. The downside. Well, is there any downside to keeping Shamlingas or Ornithopter? Because the upside is you get a treasure, so we draw land, we can play it, then untap. Fix dynamic treasure. Downside is we need to draw black land regardless. Downside is Brainleaf Dome, I suppose, but there's only 2 in the deck. I think it's supposed to be Shamlingas. Oh, actually, hold on. That was probably really awkward. I was gonna say it's probably incorrect because we can't make black without a swamp, because we could draw something like Dark Ritual. I realized a little too late and just got as punished as possible. Yeah, now we're probably dead. This looks to be mono blue Belcher, potentially Show and Tell variant. Missing land drops. Oh my god, this is really awkward. We would have won easily if I just kept the Ornithopter. Shouldn't have gone greedy. Wow, they're discarding to hand size? Well, I don't really want to cast anything into Mana Drain, I suppose. That's gotta be the worst draw in our deck. And that land's really bad too in this matchup. We do not want it. Oh, actually, hold on. No, it's pretty good against Belcher, isn't it? Okay, this is the Show and Tell variant. I suppose I'm fine casting a Shamlingas if they want to Mana Drain that. I am not gonna stop them. They might. They really need a third. They might be gambling on drawing land into Subtlety. I suppose I might as well. What's even a good draw? Like, what even? Oh, I suppose Grief. Grief is my best draw. I should be just mulling towards Grief. Or not mulling, digging towards Grief. Because I want to clear the way for Necropotence. The issue with her Grief is that they have Mana Drain. It sets them up for a Belcher. Okay. I'm just going to cast a Shamlingas. I don't know. Putting Dark Ritual Necropotence into a obvious Mana Drain seems mediocre. Like, they're even missing land drops. It's extremely unlikely that they don't have it. So let's see. Do I have enough mana? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I have enough mana to Necropotence twice, so I'm just gonna do that. It gives them mana drain, but even if a land drop, even if they hit a land drop, that'll only put them up to 6 mana, which isn't enough to kill me with Belcher. Obviously, Omniscience would be awkward. All right, I mean, go to 2. Don't really see a reason not to. Belcher kills me just the same if I'm on 20 or 1. And I really want to be able to kill him next turn. I'm understand. Do they not have mana drain? Like, what can they even have? Let's not click that last time. I really don't. Like, are they just, do they have like Omni, 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 Show and Tell, Show and Tell, Show and Tell? Like, what can their hand possibly be? Oh, you know what? Maybe I should have gone to 3. I mean, if they had a Commandeer, they would have cast it. But if they find a Commandeer, they can Commandeer a Tendrils. I suppose I can try to play around that, maybe. I mean, I really want to hit a Grief here, which would help. Yeah, there's the Grief. Okay, so I want to keep Grief, black card, Grief, black card, sacrifice, Beseech, Breach, and then past that, Grief, sacrifice, Dark Ritual, Beseech, Unroll, Breach, and then I don't really see a reason to keep Weather the Storm. I could just keep Ornithopter or Phyrexian Tower, that seems fine. And I suppose another black card, so maybe like another. What was the other Grief? Grief? Oh, I'll keep a land actually. Yeah, this seems fine to me. Maybe I didn't need to keep the Ornithopter because I already had the Shambling Est. But having more Bargain Fire fills up the graveyard seems fine to me. So the Grief is gonna pitch Dark Ritual. I suppose land is probably worse than Dark Ritual, so I should have kept another black card. That's probably incorrect. That was definitely incorrect. That's alright though. Should be fine either way. We have a Ritual in graveyard, but not much else. I mean, the upside is they're able to stop the combo having a land drop instead of having cast a Ritual is going to be better. Oh, they're probably going to Subtlety the Reef, actually. Oh, not my favorite. So they didn't Subtlety the Shambling Gasp. They might have. They had it. Let's see. I evoke Grief, they Subtlety, put it in the bottom. I go Ornithopter, Shambling Gasp, Beseech, Beseech. And with Dark Ritual, play Underworld Breach. I'll have maybe enough cards to do something. Yeah, let's give it a shot. I do not expect them to have mana drain, because they would have drained the Necropotence, but maybe they have Subtlety. That would not be entirely surprising. Of course, you can't evoke Grief from the graveyard with Breach. Yeah, there's a Subtlety. I suppose I'll put it on top. Maybe I'm supposed to. Oh, I actually was probably supposed to pitch the Sacrifice instead of the Dark Ritual in case this happened. There was no reason not to. Yeah, that's probably wrong. Anyway, so what's the plan? I can go Ornithopter into Beseech, and if this Beseech resolves, which I expect it to, yeah. So right now I have 3 cards in the graveyard. Another Beseech will put 5 cards in the graveyard. 6 with the Beseech. Get Dark Ritual. That's 7. Underworld Breach. 4. Beseech. Tendril? Is that enough Storm? Yeah, I've cast a Subtlety. I think it is. It's maybe not actually. Guess there's no reason to be. I don't really have to risk it. I don't think it was enough Storm. I probably should have tanked on that longer because I had the time to do so. It's fine though. I'll just go down to 1 again. Try to find a Grief. If I can Grief in response to the Omni and take their payoff, that would be nice. Because I'm worried about Show and Tell here more than anything. Go to 1. Underworld Breach in hand means it's basically impossible for me to fizzle here. Next turn. Yeah, so let's see. That was already 5 storm. 6, 7, 8. I think I would have gotten there, yeah. Because I would have cast 1 more Beseech and the Breach and a Ritual and a Ritual and a Ritual. Yeah. Need so many Springleaf Drums. Or my land drop, really. Or so many Springleaf Drums. Shambling Ghast seems fine. So what am I keeping right now? Do I need the weather? No, I don't need the weather. That's all my weather's gone, so I am like a little at risk of Commandeer, but I can always just Grief to throw it away. I'll cast the first Grief pitching Shambling Ghast. If he gets Subtlety, I can clear away with the second Grief and still be fine. Unfortunate draw for our opponent. They just really were unable to function without a third land for so long. That was actually like absurdly unlucky, I'm not gonna lie. And not having a mana chain. I don't understand why they kept their hand. Though, you never know. So they have a bunch of counter spells, so defense grid, what? Cool. Epic. I'm unable to sideboard. And I'm unable to submit, so I guess I'll have to just report back in 2 minutes and cut this part out. Wow, that's really annoying. Alright, we're back, and this hand... Not quite. I'm gonna keep it, I think. I can get up to 6 mana and Beseech, no bargain. Yeah. So I have a lot of draws that let me turn 1 Necro. That's not one of them. Well, I can do a turn 2. Is this? Yeah, I'm not gonna grief them. It's unfortunate because now they get to hold up Mana Drain, but what can you do? Didn't get the sideboard, unfortunately. What I would have done is bring in all of the Veil of Summers and Defense Grids and a Beseiju and Hail Mites probably. And then board it out. I'm not sure. So if they have Subtlety, it's fine. If they have Mana Drain, it's really bad. We instantly lose. Is there a way to play around that? I don't think so. And we do lose if they just... Yeah. I'm gonna do this. They wouldn't have it. They have it. I don't know. I just don't think I was supposed to mull that hand when it's so close to being a turn 1 Necro with Grief. Here's a 1 ring. We don't have Thoracle main, so we can't win through it. So theoretically, gaining enough life could mean being able to win through Belcher, not through a show and tell. But we'll get to that. But okay. Somehow we've been really good at drawing ley lines turn 1 and 2. Not the most ideal card to be drawing on turn 1s and 2 consecutively, or maybe turns 2 and 3. Anyway, a very awkward draw here. Though I'm sure our opponent's gonna put us out of our misery here, no doubt. We've drawn a lot of cards and they have a lot of mana. And by a lot, I mean 4, but it's gonna be enough. Like, Show and Tell Omni is barely likely to just do it, and they could just hardcast a Belcher. They could also, like, Commandeer, Mana Drain it, move to second main. Is this just a hardcast Subtlety? Well, I don't have anything to cast into it. Weird. Bonus deck seems to not be functioning very well. Sure. Commandeer, yeah. Commandeer is difficult to play around. Makes Grief really important. They're putting in a tap land before drawing with Ring. Sure. Okay, that doesn't really bother me. I'm not sure if that should be in their deck even. Unless they don't have enough cards to board out. Because I have a number of swamps. And ways to make black mana and it's kind of slow. Springleaf Drum just kind of wrecks it. And all the rituals mean that we only really need a singular black mana to get going. But that's fine. Maybe they died of the ring. It's possible. Okay, Shambling Ghast. Wait, hold on a second. For... Oh, wow. I mean, I'm gonna go for it. I don't think things are gonna really get better from here on out. Every turn that I have lived has been a gift. And I don't intend to look this gift horse in the mouth. I'm gonna go for it. This would be a tendrils for 4, and ring would be 3 more. Swan Song. Okay, well that means that Beseech off the top, so they draw with ring, they go to 6, Beseech, yeah, okay, land off the top, swamp off the top, or Dark Ritual is game, because we can Beseech for tendrils, hit them for 2 with the bird. They lose 3 off ring, they'll probably 4 because they're drawing here. Okay. I mean, they definitely have infinite counter magic, so I doubt that's gonna happen. Yeah, here's the show and tell. Well, we get to put in Leyline, so if they put in a Belcher, yeah, Omni. I assume they have a way to win through this. If not, they can still just jam a ring and protect themselves. And because I didn't get the sideboard, I don't have a way to beat that. Which is, yeah, it's gonna do it. I want to see what they get, and I'll scoop, just out of curiosity. It's a Masterminds acquisition. I mean, yeah, I don't really have outs here. Even if they can't kill me outright, they can still just get a second ring, play it, hold up counter magic. There's nothing I can do. So, see if I get the sideboard. The answer is no. Epic. Well, I didn't make the mistake of cutting cards from the deck, so I can just submit right away. This is really frustrating. Getting to sideboard would be extremely helpful, but here we are. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a mulligan. It's also going to be a mulligan. Bonus mulling, at least. Ooh. Okay, that sounds good. So, I'm going to bottom tendrils. Springleaf Drum, I think? Maybe I keep Springleaf Drum bottom Shining Gas. The part I'm worried about here is Commandeer Necropotence. So if that happens, I don't think I'm going to be living super long, but I think I'm supposed to keep Shambling Est in case of Phyrexian Tower. Alright, fingers crossed. They only have 6 cards, so it's possible they're holding priority. Oh, come on. Holding full control so I can take a screenshot, because this is just savage. Alright. Yeah. Not getting to sideboard means it's just so impossible to play a longer game. And we couldn't find a grief. Yeah, what are you gonna do? Now our hand's just completely awful. They're being really conservative with their Necropotence for some reason. Also, activating at the wrong time. They don't get to draw, which is nice. Maybe they don't have a land? Ah, never lucky. Yeah, this is going to be... I expect very quick. They're gonna get to see a lot of cards. Their deck isn't a very good Necropotence deck per se, but I'm not gonna be pressuring, so I can just draw like 3 cards a turn. Gonna make their lands a little awkward because they're so painful, but I've honestly just find show and tell Omni or hit enough land drops to filter me, and there's not much I can do about it. I mean, Shemligast, one of the reasons I kept it is if they do have this, it does get to attack. That part is somewhat relevant. Cycling Shemligast makes it maybe a little more relevant. But they're really going to have to just completely fail to function. They exiled Show and Tell Omni with the first Commandeer, so it makes me think that those were the only 2 blue cards in their hand. That's just Winter Twin. Maybe it's a redundant piece. Maybe they had like a second Show and Tell or a second Omni that they kept, but checking in the land, I mean, they do kind of. It is risky not to hold up Mana Drain, but on the other hand, like that's just a lot of damage when you've got a Necropotence in play. Like that's just a reverse Ancestral Recall. You, you, you denied yourself 3 cards for 1 blue mana. Actually, that's literally a reverse Ancestral Recall. But they're going to 10. Play a second Shambling Ghast, even if they like Subtlety, it's still. It's like the amount of time they have is somewhat limited. So you never know. In the tank here. Thingy. Wonder what their decision. I mean, they're probably deciding how many cards to draw with Necro, which is fair. Totally fair. They are going to time out in a second. The answer is none? Okay. I mean, their hand must be like really good or really bad. Really bad, they feel that they have to hit land drops before they can attempt to start drawing cards. So you should just be drawing up to 7 regardless. Like, there's just no downside. They're going to Mana Drain this. They're going to do that right now, which is strange. Because the timing doesn't matter all that much because... wow. Aggressive. Yeah. Sorry. Sure. I mean, it doesn't matter all that much since you're not drawing for turn, so... If they're not going to gain any new information, why not? But... it's a little odd. Yeah. This is their land drop. Yeah, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be not activating Necro when you're gonna miss your land drop after you Dwari. That's really sketchy. Because you need to be hitting your land drops with a Necro in play to be able to use all your cards. That's a pretty important part of it. I mean, at this point, I'm just hoping that this Shambling Ghast beatdown gets there. Which is, like, unironically possible, because if their draws are bad, they won't get a crack at them anymore with this Necro. Well, land's not the worst. I mean, I would rather it be a Phyrexian Tower, but casting something into a Mana Drain is just a really easy way to lose for no reason. Disrupt Loot, that doesn't even matter, though. What are they going to name Necropotence? I mean, I guess, like, Beseech the Mirror, Tendrils. I don't know. Necrodominant? Yeah, that is not in my deck, but... And, you know, nice try. Good effort. 2 mana, discard a card. Epic. What is going on? Okay. Am I dead? I've got to be dead if they're doing this. Wow, unlucky. Dodge. Where's their 3 mana? Bona? Oh, that's not real, bro. That actually can't be real. I mean, yeah, fair play. Alright, well, that was interesting. Not getting to sideboard, I think, really cost us there, but that's alright. On to the next one. Alright, match 3 gear away on our opponent, but we'll get our opening hand in a second. Ooh, this is gonna be a mulligan. This? Huh? And I'll keep this. This is a turn 2 Necro with Leonef Sanctity, so... I mean, it's going to be a little slow if it's Demir, but if it's Boros / Mardu... Yeah, looks like we got paid off, because they're not going to be able to... Oh, this isn't a turn 2 Necro, what am I talking about? Ooh. Well, now it is, though. If I can jump with the Shambling Ghast, it is. I don't know, maybe it's still a fine keep. Necro can be Demir controlled, and you really want turn 1 Necro against that, but who's thought to use Spell Pierce, etc. So it's not with Leonef Sanctity. I don't know. Against, like, Boros / Mardu, if you can get, like, a turn 2 or turn 3 Necro, it's often good enough. I mean, turn 3 really only on the play if you play blockers. Otherwise, they'll have too much pressure, but the most important part is just getting the Necro down. Yeah, and having Leyline is really nice because now they can't really interact. That is nice, thanks. Yeah, I guess they really should have just static prisoned the Leyline, I think. That would have worked out a lot better for them. Because then they could Juggernaut Pedal the following turn. How many cards am I gonna draw? I want to be able to survive Ocelot Pride or God of Souls getting jumped. That'd be 5, 6, 7, or 5 total, plus Bolt, so 8. And I want to be able to tap this, so 9, so I want to be on 10, so I'll draw 9. I have this Weather the Storm, so I can go again pretty easily, so I'm really not worried about having to win right away. If I can cast like a good 6 or 7 spells and just gain 20 life, then that'll easily buy me another turn. Oh, I suppose I don't need to play around Bolt. Hold on, pause. I don't need to play around Bolt because of Leyline, so I'll draw 3 more. Oh, actually, I do need to. Oops, because of the static prison. Okay. If they have exactly Lightning Bolt, I am dead now because I did that. Because they can use the energy from the static prison to jump the God of Souls. So hopefully they don't have a Bolt. That was obviously quite bad. I second guessed myself. When I really didn't need to. Did I hit a Grief? I did not. I'll take a Phyrexian Tower. I'll take a Dark Reach. I'll take a Beseech. I'll take a Reach. I'll take a Feather. I'll take a suppose I could take Demonic Tutor or Ornithopter. Seems acceptable. I should be able to kill my opponent if I get to untap. But we'll see if that happens. Yeah, that was quite bad. Them pedaling themselves was just really. It doesn't mean that they need to rip the Bolt. They do know that they don't have any other spells in hand. They're probably gonna hit the Necro here for no reason. That's alright. Oh, I guess. Fine. And I know that the last card in their hand is a land. Because Juggernaut Pedal doesn't reveal lands, but I do know that they could have only had one more. They had no other non-lands in hand when it resolved, so they had to have drawn the second side of prison. Anyway, the second deck card was nice. Getting to just see more cards is one of the upsides of getting the Necro removed main phase. So we can go for a Ornithopter, Onic Tutor, or doing the Ornithopter. Sure. Don't mind, because I've got the Breach. And actually, this works well. This is 5 Storm. I mean, I'll play the Breach. Why not? Just in case of I'm not sure what. But yeah, now I can Tendrils, and if I really felt like I could have also besieged away the Breach. And done some more shenanigans. Gotten a Dark Ritual and then cast the Tendrils or whatnot. So I had plenty of Storm there. Arguable that playing the Ornithopter was a mistake because it exposed it to removal and I don't get to bargain it away, but I just didn't need to, so I didn't bother. Against energy, we don't want the song, especially against Bowmasters. I'll board into Beseech and some Haywire Mites for hate, and I'll board in Culling Ritual. And Leyline is good because of Juggernaut Pedal, as you saw, and because of like Bombardment and stuff like that. I think I'm gonna trim like Grief Sacrifice and one Springleaf Drum. Oh, and March. I guess I'll trim 2 Griefs. I know Grief isn't the most spectacular against energy. It's less necessary to have the turn 1 Necro. And you can be a little slower after Necroing as well. And you can't really afford to like grief without doing something with it on turn 1 if you don't have a already good hand, so it's not that good for taking hate pieces proactively. When you board in Beseech, you can't board out a land because you need enough black sources turn 1 and 2. And Beseech doesn't actually help in that regard, unfortunately. Opponent really loves to take at the beginning, tank at the beginning of the game. Not quite a turn 1, apparently. Though, we have a number of draws that get us there, I suppose. But that's alright. Yeah, I'm not miscounting, right? Could go Phyrexian Tower or Ornithopter Ritual, but that doesn't have something to... We don't have something to bargain, so yeah. Go ahead and pass. Actually, no, I'll play the Ornithopter. Getting to block the Guide of Souls seems like it could be nice. Oh, miss your land drop. Unlucky. That's fine though. This isn't going to be nearly fast enough. Now I could kill Gallowslot Pride, but I think oh, I definitely couldn't actually because could though. Yeah. So is a Dark Ritual in hand worth Ornithopter in play? I think it is. Yeah. I don't want to draw too many cards so that I don't just like. Wait. Pause. I already put a land. Yeah. Okay. I don't want to. I have lost my train of thought. I don't want to need to draw like a ton of cards to try to hit fast mana against this because this could be a lot of damage. How much damage could be 5, and I want to play around like a single bolt to 8, so we'll go to 9 until I draw 11. Does this beat Bombardment? It doesn't beat Bombardment plus another creature, but that would be a lot of damage. I don't want to play around that and not be able to win potentially. So yeah, I mean this should be good enough, most likely. I'm fairly confident I'll be able to find enough off this Necro to kill my opponent, especially with a Dark Ritual already in hand. 7 cards is a lot, or at least like gain a ton of life. Culling Ritual is nice, I suppose. Um, okay. Yeah. Keep DT, Dark Ritual, Shambling Ghast, Culling Ritual, Tendrils, Dark Ritual. Did we keep a land already? We kept. No, we didn't. Don't want to land. Yeah, I guess I'll hold on. I mean, it's so hard to like math out the line while you're doing this way, but like, does Ornithopter meaningfully change a ritual twice? I mean, land is an extra mana, so it's probably fine. Yeah. So what does this look like? I go ritual, so I have 3, 4 mana, 8 mana, DT down to 6 mana. I can DT for Breach and Dark Ritual twice, and then Tendrils. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be plenty. They're on a lot of life, though, I suppose. And I'm just gonna... Oh, this makes the Culling Ritual really good, so this should be fine regardless. Because now I'm just gonna do this. It's gonna generate a billion mana. Shambling Ghast. Sack it. Pressure. Demonic Tutor. I'm just gonna grab Beseech to put more cards in the graveyard when I go for the Breach. Beseech, bargain, Lamb, and finish with a Breach. And this is going to be pretty trivial. Go Ritual, 5 mana, Ritual. Wait, pause? Hold on. 9? I can go up to 7, 9. On. So, wait a second. Is this not enough? Did I mess this up? I mean, I have outs even if I did. So, let's see. Yeah, actually, I did mess this up because there aren't too much life. Wait, so this would be 10 for 22? Oh, no, this is fine. Because I can DT. I mean, for anything, right? Doesn't matter. Suppose I'll get a. Oh no, I need to be able to cast it. Anything I can cast. Get a Shambling Guest. 12, 13. Okay, yeah. What I should have done is not bargained away the treasure, gotten the breach immediately. That would have put me at 8 mana rather than 7 after 2 dark rituals, which will let me 10 rolls twice. So yeah, that was a bit of a mistake, but instead I can just say that I calculated it out perfectly for Exacxius. Very wise. Yeah, worst case, I just ritual, recast the Necro from the graveyard and then 10 rolls and do it again next turn, so it really would have been totally fine, but that was almost a little scary. Alright, so that's gonna do it for the games. This deck, I mean, it's really strong. We did lose a match to Mono Blue, but I think, but it's just both like a really difficult matchup because of Commandeer. Like, we did the turn 1 Ritual Necro thing on turn 1 and just instantly lost, but also, you know, not getting to sideboard. Not getting to go, like, defense grid into Necro or anything like that. Like, it's kind of brutal. Not that it would have necessarily helped game 3, but it would have definitely helped game 2. So yeah, I think this deck, I mean, it's just really underrated. Like, people don't know how to play Necro decks. They just don't understand how aggressively you need to mulligan towards Necro opponents. And so they play the deck, kind of get a bad impression because they keep bad hands and lose, and then the deck doesn't get played much, but it's really strong. And if you like choosing people out, you like doing storm math, you like combo decks in general, I do recommend you check it out. I got a update to my previous guide that's on my Patreon right now. You should go check that out. Also join my Discord, link in the description. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.